Yo, it's Captain, bringing you a Star Rails Captain Log 2.2-2. It's the second time we played the story for 2.2, and well, let me just okay, let me tell you, I don't think it's gonna be as long as yesterday's video. I honestly don't know how yesterday's video got that long. So let's hope it's not as long as yesterday's video. But I don't think we got as much done. Now, technically, what am I doing? Technically, I watched, judging it off the, long form playthrough, um, like just content block. We actually made the same amount, about 45 minutes of progress in an 8 hour and 45 minute content block long form playthrough, which is slightly discouraging because I'm never going to get done with this. But I felt like I didn't do nearly as much. I got distracted. Today was the Dreamflux Reef, essentially map exploration day. If you play the main story in this game, there's a lot of cutscenes. There's an occasional fight with like a boss fight. More, is probably the better highlight of that. And then there's usually a map exploration phase. So yesterday, the first time through, we saw a lot of cutscenes, a lot of setup. Today, and then they brought us to a map, and today is like, all right, the story is now go through the map. You go here, now go here, talk to this person, go here, talk to this person, go here, talk to this person, and you can kind of explore the map along the way. This one was much more, I guess, like a town map, because a lot of times it'll be like you're going through enemies and stuff. This one, I think we had one fight, and I think they just threw it in for funsies. But it's very much like there's just people around, and you're kind of experiencing the area. It'd be like going through the golden hour, that it's just kind of a safe zone area. And there was a lot. Like, I wrote them all down just to make sure I didn't forget them. I don't think I want to go through like all of them, or else I'll end up with a really long video. It kind of doesn't feel great. But there was a lot of like, go here, talk to this person, go here, talk to this person, oh, you ran into this person. And overall, this Dreamflux Reef, I don't think we got through the Dreamflux Reef. I guess I could check that long form playthrough and see, and like kind of scrub ahead and see if we leave. I don't think we got through with it. I think we did hit a climax. We hit like a pretty decent stopping point. So I don't feel terrible. I feel like we did kind of finish this act. The map exploration chunks are always kind of big, like time wise, because you get to run around and explore. And speaking of, I never finished that thought from earlier. I'm a little tired today, but I was a little worried we didn't get too far today, because I really couldn't help myself from just chilling out and exploring the map. Like I said, I was kind of tired, and it was just like, oh, let me click on the birds, and oh, we'll talk to this NPC, and ooh, the steam vent has a light on it. Let's see what that's about. You could sit in the couch. We'll sit in the couch. I did a lot, probably more than I should have. But it was really nice. Like, after just watching cutscenes for the last time, it was really nice just to get that gameplay. It's like a pacing thing. You watch a bunch of cutscenes, and they give you some chance to play. Watch some more cutscenes. Eventually, you'll have a boss to fight, usually at the end. So it was nice to kind of just enjoy that. And it's a new map. It's a new map with the patch, and it was pretty cool. So okay, I want to tell you what the map's about, but I kind of want to tell you what the story about. Let's tell you what the map's about. The map is kind of like a rundown version of Golden Hour. It's similar. Like, you see similar buildings, but it's not like the entertainment district. There's not like big malls and stores and shops. It's kind of like residential. There's a lot of tall buildings that seem to be apartments, like brick with windows in them. There is I think Firefly tells us there's a commercial district and a residential district. So maybe the commercial district has more stuff. But I never saw like a bunch of big shops. I don't know if we went to both. It's not supposed to be like a huge area, but it's kind of like it's almost like an urban park, but set in New York in like the I don't know my decades very well. In the earlier half of the 20th century, So there is some lights and stuff up. There's a lot of weird posters that got like X's on people's faces and stuff. It's that kind of dystopian feel, and the place is generally run down, so it's not as flashy and nice. But it's a similar setup. It'd be like if one of those flashy, nice places that we've been going to in the dream got run down, and you're in the back alley where you're on the wrong side of town, kind of thing. That's what it feels like. We ran into some NPCs that were like thugs and gangs, and we should beat that guy up. Oh, and stuff like that. And even the birds on the map are like, they're a little grumpier. I think is what we concluded, because they have like deeper chirps, like burr, burr. And if you talk to the big bird's actually Dr. Blues, which I was really excited to see, because if you pay attention, he is actually the first cartoon character you meet, and you meet him in the real world in the hotel. And I didn't think much of it, because, when you first come to Penacony, and that's pretty much the only time you're in the real world hotel, and everything's new and exciting, and the real world hotel seems amazing. You just, oh, there's a bird here. This is weird. And you have to stare at him for a long time before he finally talks to you. And he's like, what are you doing? And it's kind of implied that not everyone can see him. And you just pass it off because it's weird, but everything's new and exciting. Then you get into the dream and you realize that real hotel was nothing. And the dream is amazing. And I've completely forgot about it until one time I was just randomly back in the main hotel in reality, and I was like, wow, it doesn't seem as cool as when I first came here. And then I saw Dr. Blues, and I was like, wait, you're a cartoon character. You're not supposed to be in reality. What? And I talked to him, and he didn't say anything different than he had the last time. And I was like, he's like, yo, come back to me when you find some birds. So I've just been amazed by him ever since. Because, for one, not very many people can see the cartoon characters. Trailblazer is one of the few people. And for two, how are they in the real world? That doesn't make sense. So I don't know. I think I actually did find enough birds today that I got a text message from Dr. Blues, and it said, "Yo, you found enough. Come see me in the hotel." I was like, "What?" Which probably everyone else has already done, because I'm just slow on map completion. But I thought it was interesting, because I thought maybe because we were in the map with him there, I was like, oh, maybe I should go talk to him. And he didn't know. He has to be the one in the main hotel, which I haven't gone back and done yet. So I don't know. Maybe he'll give me some answers. But it was very exciting to see him in the map. He's the nest manager here. But you talk to him, it's really weird. He talks about there being a script and how he's supposed to say this stuff. Oh, find the things, and it's clocky time. But he doesn't really want to. I'm like, what is going on? What do you mean the birds have a script? Like, is he really a bird? Is he, why is this? Like, this is the dream, and it's still dreamy, but like the magic isn't there. It's much more reality and gritty and kind of, like not as pretty, but a lot more real, even though it's a dream. And that's a theme that comes up a couple times in the story. So we'll see where that goes. But I thought, like, right, that's even the birds are like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to tell you that Clocky's happy for your help, but I don't know, I gotta talk about Clocky because that's the script for the birds. And you're like, what do you mean you're a bird? What do you mean that's a script for the bird? You're like, what do you mean you have a script? What? It's like, either they're created cartoon characters and they just are themselves, or they're people who are acting like a cartoon character, but they seem to be both. They seem to be creating cartoon characters that are themselves, but also have an act to do, and it's I don't know. It was very fun. I had, like I said, I had a good time just doing the map exploration, dicking around, and finding the vents for each path. I didn't get to the last one because the cutscene blocked me out of it, but it was neat. And then just kind of clicking on the different things and seeing what's going on. Like there's a big clocky right when you kind of at the start. There's this giant creepy ass clocky, and he's sitting in a weird position. He's like, whoa, and he's huge. And you have to. It's so. It has that feel of if you've ever seen like exploration videos of abandoned theme parks, or theme park after hours, or kind of like the whole premise of what's it called, Five Nights at Freddy's, where you have these cool, cute, fun things, but then when it's nighttime, they're not so cute, right? Now they're just kind of creepy things that are just sitting there in weird positions. And that's what that giant clocky statue felt like. It was just there, and just kind of strange and but huge. And then you actually go up a whole elevator to get to the main map where all this kind of all the action takes place. And the elevator, you're just staring at the clocky as you go up because it's just so big. So you really they really focus on it. Even Welt is like, that's a big clocky, and you can click on him and it's like, this is the big clocky that everybody loves. And everybody thinks this is so valuable, and people in other places wish they had one of these, and they clean it every day. And that means that Clocky's daily routine is to get cleaned every day. It does. I wonder if Clocky knows that. And you're like, what? It's really creepy. This is because it's always been Candyland with the dark side. The Dream has always had that vibe, but this is very much like, not necessarily dark side on full display, but just like Candyland after hours at night, at midnight Candyland, when nobody's there and all the lights are turned off and everything's just has this weird, creepy, dead vibe. I don't know how to explain it. It's a very specific vibe where everything's, like nothing's activated. It's like if you saw a mascot costume that was just lying there, not being worn. It's weird because the mascot is supposed to be up and dancing around, but that's just a mascot costume. It's not the mascot because it's not up and dancing around, but it looks just like it. It's like a mascot corpse, right? It's just a weird feeling. So this map kind of has that to it. The story itself, I guess I should get to that part. That's, I don't know. That's my overview of the map. There's probably things I've forgotten, but it was fun. It was fun to explore the map. The overview of the story. The story itself, like I said, you go around talking to a lot of people. It seems very much to be a get the gang together, but it's not your gang. It ends up, I don't have to do this in order. I'll give you the overview. It ends up being Gallagher's gang. And by the end of it, because I'll tell you where we got to. We didn't get to the end. We got to right when Gallagher shows up and everybody's there. And you get the feeling that this was intended by Gallagher to get everybody together. And you've got quite a disparate crew. It's not just the train gang at this point. It's quite an eclectic group. And I get the feeling that this will be our core team of resistance as we figure out what is going on with the family and the betrayals and the disharmony, and we try to like kind of fix Penacony. I think the idea is Gallagher has got a bunch of people together who he thinks is going to help him with this, and they just don't know it yet, right? And that's kind of where it left this. We had just ended up with, in case you played the story, we just ended up with Micah and the monuments, and then Gallagher shows up with Sunday. So by the end of it, it's just to picture this. By the end of this, we are talking to people, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to find the people who we thought were dead, right? Meeting random people who know about this kind of off dream space. right? Meeting up with our train gang who we got separated from after Acheron deleted us all, and I forgot what it was. Anyways, we're grabbing all these people, and by the end of it, Gallagher is there. Sunday and Robin are both there. All the train gang except Dawn. So Trailblazer, March, Himiko, and Welt are there. Firefly is there. Misha is there. Presumably Clocky might be there. I don't know. Clocky was with Misha when we met him. So this is like all the like several people from different factions have now all come together, and Gallagher's just like, "Yep, got them all. Everybody's here now." And you're like, "What?" And then that's where I had to end for the day. So I presumably he's about to tell us what's going on, but yeah, it was just so crazy. You just keep running into stuff because as you meet the people who eventually all come together there, as you meet the people, you realize that this map is a dream space, is a dreamscape, just like any of the family ones, like Golden Hour or Moment of Twilight, whatever they're all called. It's a dreamscape just like them, but it's not run by the family. It's not really created by the family. It's a dreamscape focused on freedom because they're not part of the family. That seems to be one of the themes. You've got the very controlled family dreamscapes, and then you've got these ones which are much more free form, kind of just run by the people in them. And they say this isn't the only one that the system Azdana, which is, because Penacony is like one planet in Azdana, which was the prison colony system that rebelled, that was mining the Memoria. And these are kind of just the natural dreamscapes that kind of appeared or were created by those original inhabitants, the prison revolt people, the watchmaker people. And it says this one was supposed to be like the center. Maybe the implication is the first one made, or the implication is the first one made by the watchmaker, something like that. And so here we are, all in like resistance territory in Freedom Town. It's just a wild thing. I'm trying to think if there's anything more I want to give you before I just kind of go through some of the story beats. I don't want to summarize them too much, because I think it'll be tedious and not helpful. But yeah, it's just, yeah, I think the other kind of themes I want to talk about are going to make more sense if we know a little bit of the story. But all right, so let me talk about that. Like I said, we go up that elevator, and we're with Firefly. Firefly's like, I've been here. This is the dreamscape. This is the land of the exiles. And this is what I was trying to show you. This is where I think we're going to find more answers. And then she's like, yeah, Robin should be here, but we need to find Himiko and March. I forget. And then so she leaves. She splits up. She's like, I'm either going to go find Robin or I'm going to go find Gallagher. I forget what she says. Then she kind of disappears. And then, Trailblazer and Welt all of a sudden run into Misha. And Misha's there with Clocky. And Misha's like, how'd you guys get here? And Welt's like, who's your little friend? And I'm like, well, you can see Clocky. No one else can see the cartoon characters. Apparently Welt can see the cartoon characters. And they make some joke about him being young at heart. I don't know if that's the official explanation or if it's going to go deeper and they're just having a tease with this young at heart thing. I don't know. So then Misha's like, well, don't worry, I'll show you around. I live here. Like, what? Okay. So he shows us around, and then we see a black hole that's up in the sky, and then Welt starts going into astrophysics, and Misha's like, oh, you sound like Kaimi. She talks about this stuff all the time. So then we go meet Kaimi, and she goes into some crazy astrophysics. She's like, in 10 system hours, this black hole's gonna merge the dream, and this place is gonna cease to exist. I'm like, isn't that around the same time as the Charmony Festival? And Misha's like, don't worry about her. She does this a lot. So they just totally pass it off, right? But she's like, something in the golden hour is stirring up and making the Moria suck into the black hole faster. And I'm like, I don't think we should disregard her. I think that's actually true. But it's also wild because Misha said to completely disregard her, but as we talk to people around, everybody keeps referencing the collapse of the sweet dream. And it took me a little bit because they kept saying things like sweet dream, lovely dream, happy dream, just like kind of positive adjectives of dream. And what they're referring to is the family dreams, as far as I could tell. Like, these are not the family controlled dreams. This is a dream where we're more focused on, you know, freedom and letting people live how they live, even if it's dirty and grungy and people fail and it's not pretty. And then there's the family dreams, which is all candy and roses and come to our resort, right? And they play that up, particularly when we get to Robin, they play that up. So they keep talking about the sweet dream, and many people keep referring to the collapse of the sweet dream. Like it's just a foregone conclusion. It's just common knowledge that the sweet dream, which is the family's dream, which is kind of the Penacony everybody knows, is just going to collapse soon. And I'm like, why is no one reacting to this? Does Trailblazer also just know that? Does Trailblazer and Welt just also know that's going to happen? Does Misa just assume it's going to happen? I'm not assuming that's going to happen. Why is everyone else assuming it's going to happen? They haven't really talked about it, so maybe that's, you know, maybe Gallagher's going to talk about it. Maybe that's going to be the next big thing. But everybody's just kind of ignoring it. But like all the NPCs just keep talking about it. The ones in the story and some of the ones out of the story. I'm just like, what is going on? So here's our kind of first big reference to something bad's happening, and Misha just brushes it off. But then as we go to these other NPCs, they all reference, oh yeah, it's probably because the sweet dream's collapsing. You're like, wait, what? Anyway, so we brush that off, and then we're looking around. We find March. There's a little funny scene where she's with a Pepeshi, who also apparently recently just showed up here, and he thinks he's dead, and so he thinks March is a ghost. And it's kind of just a goof, except he does tell March she's talking to someone invisible, and the three people she's talking to are Trailblazer, Welt, and Misha. And I'm like, that's a little weird. But again, they don't talk about it at all. It's just move on. So I don't know if it's just a gag or if we're supposed to read into it. Anyways, then we take the Pepeshi to another NPC called Jesse, and we leave him there. And Jesse's like, oh yeah, sweet dreams collapse. And you're just like, what? Then we go find Himiko, and she's talking to a new NPC, but this one sticks around, named Micah. And he seems to be one of the leaders here of the exiles. He's got a fancy coat on, like very similar to Misha's coat, which I think is a bellboy coat. So it's either like a Trailblaze thing passed down, or it's just the hotel uniform. But he's got kind of an official coat. And he has knowledge. Himiko's talking to him, and she's like, oh, who'd have thought I would have found that information there? Or here, of all places. And later on, there's a scene where he has knowledge of the Trailblazers that have been here. And I guess that's the other part of the Kaimi scene. Like, it's really, like I said, it's very disjointed, but there's little tidbits as you go. It's kind of like a detective section. But Kaimi mentions Rosalina, and Welt's like, Rosalina? That's one of the Trailblazers that the conductor asked us to look after, one of the three Trailblazers that was left at Penacony in the train's records from a long time ago. And so Kaimi's like, oh yeah, Rosalina's the one who, you know, studies all the Memoria movements, and that's who I've been studying, and that's how I can figure out what's going on with this black hole. And you're like, interesting. Then we meet, you know, now we're to Himiko and Micah, and we hear Himiko saying, oh, I think I'd found that information. Presumably, Mike is telling her about the other Trailblazers, because he has a little speech later about Rosalina and Tiernan, which is one of the other one. I think the final Trailblazer was Mikhail, who ended up being, who we learned in the last patch was the Watchmaker. I think that's all three of them. I don't know. I don't remember the ones from 100 years ago that Pom Pom asked us to look for. It's a long time. Okay, it's been like 3 days for the main cast. It's been like 3 months for Captain, so I don't remember. But I think that's all three of them. So Micah introduced himself. We get to know each other. He seems like a good guy. There's a really weird joke from Welt about being a guardian, which everybody acts really weird around. I feel like maybe that's a reference to a different game that just went over my head and they just made a little goof on it. I don't know. It was really weird. They clearly drew attention to it like I was supposed to recognize it from something, but I didn't. Then so then we now, all of us and Micah, go see Robin because we know where she is. Misha knows where she is. And then we go see Robin, and this is kind of when a bunch of scenes kick off. This kind of ends the map exploration part, and we get a bunch of scenes. But we start to see some of the themes that are coming in. Robin's like talking to orphan kids or whatever with Grace, who's apparently managing the orphan kids, and they have this little scene about how, you know, that the dream here is tough and people like it, but they don't feel like they need to hold on to it. And Grace goes into this thing. She's like, "Oh, you're definitely from the family. Here, let me tell you how we think about it." And she tells you that these they're like orphans. I don't know if they're all orphans, but like, well, a couple of them actually are. And then the other ones are like, they have problems. Like one of them's blind and one of them's got like mental disabilities and stuff like that. Like they're disadvantaged kids. They're not doing great, right? And then Grace even reveals herself she can't walk, right? So they're all in the dream, kind of experiencing the life they can't have in reality, because they've got all these problems. But yet none of them feel like they need to stay here. And Grace is like, "See, yeah, we come here to learn how to get over some stuff." And she goes through the kids and like, "See, these ones are dealing with their problems a little bit better. She's learning how to live without her sight. This kid's not as antsy as he used to be." And so it's all helping them. And so when they go back to reality, they will be better off. And it's this idea. And then Robin makes this big speech about how there's something wrong with the family and there's disharmony. She kind of reminds us that she was having trouble with her voice and stuff because there's disharmony. And then she realizes there's something going on with the family. They're trapping people in these fake dreams. And they made a big deal about it. And I had a little trouble trying to figure out, like, what is the deal here? And it culminates with Robin telling Micah that she accepts his proposal and she's not going to sing on the Charmony stage. She also tells us that she feels the harmony here in this strange place much more than she did in the family's places. And I think the idea here is they're trying to set up that, if you remember, we've been on the dream in Penacony, right? And it's confusing because it's all Penacony, right? We've been in the the sweet dream. I guess that's why everybody started using that term, because now we need a term for the family's dream versus other dreams. So everybody's been in the sweet dream. And everybody's been like addicted to it. They don't want to leave. They don't want to go back to reality. And the family's all like, "Yeah, you want to come here because it's everything you want. You want to live all your dreams in the dream. It's fun and like they're very big on go to it. It's better than reality. It'll be fun. Everyone will love it." And then you come here, and I think what they're trying to do is you come here and they pose it with, this one's not as pretty. This one's not as nice. It's a little bit more free, but people here aren't as attached to it. It's valuable to them. It's helpful to them, right? It's helped these kids. It's helped this chaperone, Miss Grace. But they don't feel like they have to stay. They're not really getting addicted to it. They're still grounded in reality, right? They still know that these are benefits I'm having, but it's to help me when I go back to reality, because that's reality. And I think the idea is Robin saying the family is trapping people in the sweet dream by intentionally keeping them not grounded, right? By intentionally, ramping up all the happy fun bits and getting rid of the scary, upsetting, depressing bits to really make it not real, to really make it a fantasy land, and it's actually messing people up. Because she said it's not the strong defending the weak, it's the strong taking advantage of the weak. And I think the idea is I think the idea behind that is she's saying the family is taking advantage of people who have troubles and saying, well, just forget all your troubles. Just pretend they don't exist. Just come to the dream, right? I'm thinking this could be reaching, but I'm thinking this because what's the scene we just saw? People with troubles who come to the dream, but they're not ignoring their troubles. They still realize they have problems. They still realize they're going to go back to reality. The dream's helping them, but they're staying grounded. Compared to all the stuff we've seen in the previous patches, and it's just like, no, I'll never go back. People like fading away in their clamshell beds because they just never go back to reality. And I think that's the idea. That's the problem that Robin sees. That's the injustice that she feels, and that's what she sees as the result of a disharmony and the betrayal, right? Because we've heard several times there's a betrayal in the family. Mikhail got blamed. The watchmaker got blamed, right? But according to Gallagher, it was actually the Oak family. There's something going on. Acheron saying you haven't followed the harmony in a while to the Dream Master, all that kind of stuff. So I think Robin's come to her conclusion, you know, based on this dichotomy of being in the dream but grounded versus being in the dream and avoiding reality. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised that's one of the major themes by the time we're done with it. The other theme is the birds. I haven't even talked about the birds. Oh my god, it's already been 30 minutes. I haven't even talked about the birds. Whatever. Then we're almost done because this is just the hit of the cutscenes. Then after that, it's like somewhere on the other side of the Dreamflux Reef, and we have this dream flashback to Robin and Sunday as little kids, and they find a bird. I don't know what's with Hoyo and birds, dude, but they literally I made a joke about it when I was watching it because Robin was holding a little bird and it was hurt and they were trying to figure out what to do with it, and then there was a kind voice who I have a feeling is the Dream Master voice, who was like asking them about birds, like, oh, do you know why these birds do the things they do? And I'm like, why do birds fly, Robin? Why do birds fly? Because that's a huge thing in the last chapter of part 1 of Honkai. Essentially the end of what everybody thought was going to be the end of Honkai Impact 3rd. And then they're like, no, we got part 2. But it was like a big thing. And I was just making a joke about it. But they actually went for it. They actually started... They actually, where do birds, why do birds fly to her? They didn't say the line. They didn't say the cabin line. But they did go into it. This guy was like, oh, do you know why these birds do? Why do you think these birds do? He starts going into like, oh, the birds struggled for generations to learn to fly. I'm like, this is such bullshit. This is goofy as shit. But they did. All of the characters there. So little Robin, little Sunday, and then this kind voice, all gave their perspective on how the birds fly. And Robin's was nice and sweet. It was like, oh, they fly because they're beautiful and they learn to fly through struggle. And this other guy's like, they persevered through generations of fighting. And it's like, this guy's weird. And then Sunday was like, oh, well, I guess people think that birds fly high because they don't see all the birds that crash to the ground and die. And you're like, what the fuck, Sunday? So they did. They did. Somehow Hoyo has once again, why do birds fly to us? And given everybody's interpretation on birds. Anyways, I think the biggest revelation of that scene, besides introducing once again these themes of we have a bird, it is hurt. What do we do with it? Do we take it back and take care of it, but it'll be caged, but it'll be safe and okay? Or do we let it go even though it's hurt and it probably won't survive, but it will be free? Robin is on the side of free. Sunday seems to be on the side of cage, but maybe like when it's okay, we'll let it go. But he does bring up like, well, what if it never becomes okay? What if it's always not okay? And it's like, what do we do then? And so we've seen this. I think this is going to come up. It seems to be Robin's theme. I would not be surprised if this patch is kind of Robin's story, or at least a section of this patch is Robin's story. And they always show her with bird imagery and bird in a cage imagery. It's not the most uncommon theme to come up, birds in cages and girls being trapped, and people trying to what level of freedom is acceptable, for people, and what level of control is acceptable for people. And here it is. It's just all right here. It's like, well, we can keep the bird trapped, which maybe isn't its intended purpose, right? Because it doesn't get to be free like it should, but we keep it safe. Or we let it go and it'll probably die, it'll probably crash, but it'll be free as it's intended, right? That's the philosophy question. I suspect that will come up more as well. So here they've introduced it again, and again it's fundamental to Robin and Sunday. And then that's it. Oh, and the voice is identified. I wrote it down as Mr. Gopherwood. And the longer it goes on, the more creepy and sinister he sounds, and the more I'm like, this guy is the Dream Master voice, isn't it? If I added a bunch of modulation, made him talk really weird and slow, and then put a creepy little child voice on top of it, it'd be the Dream Master voice, wouldn't it? And I'm not sure. I don't have that kind of audio vision ability. I can't do all that in my mind, but I just have a feeling. Because why else would they do it? So Mr. Gopherwood, I don't know if the name is relevant. I thought everybody had like Oak or Iris in their name, but maybe just the fact that he has wood in his name means he's part of the Oak family. I'm not really sure. I don't know the naming conventions, but his name is Gopherwood. And then the scene kind of ends because Sunday wakes up, right? It was revealed to be Sunday's dream, and he's with Gallagher, and he's like, "Why aren't I dead?" And Gallagher's like, "Why aren't you dead? That's a good question." And Sunday's like, "I hate you, you scoundrel." But it seems to me that Gallagher's plan with Sunday was because Gallagher says a few things to him that indicates, like, oh, like you went against the family just to try to save your sister. You're dealing with me when you should be doing what the family's telling you to do. I think the idea is Gallagher sees potential in this guy. Gallagher sees in Sunday that this guy actually believes the harmony and he's willing to buck the family. And Gallagher's probably thinking to himself, if I had to guess, Gallagher's thinking, well, you know what? I bet if I told this guy the truth, he'd be on my side. He doesn't seem like he's the traitor, right? Like a lot of the rest of the family is. He seems like he actually believes the stuff they're supposed to believe instead of the ones they're lying about. And he seems to be willing to do things to protect his sister, like he cares about his loved ones. And so he's like, I bet I get him on my side. And he even says that. He's even like, I think we should work together. And Sunday's like, why would I ever work with you? And he's like, well, your sister is. He's like, what? My sister? And so he's like, and Firefly shows up. And he's like, she'll take us to your sister. And Firefly's like, fine. Because I guess she doesn't trust Gallagher either. She just showed up and found him. So then we cut back to the Trailblaze gang with Micah, and Micah's telling us about the old Trailblazers who used to be here. We're at some monuments in front of the black hole. I think it's in front of the black hole. And there's these monuments, one to Rosalina, one to Tiernan, and they tell how they were part of the freedom fighters that rebelled and got the prison colony freed. And then it kind of tells what happened to him. Rosalina was trying to investigate the Memoria and went off and disappeared into it. And then Tiernan, who was a fighter, was trying to lead some forces to find some resources for everybody after Penacony was having trouble after the rebellion. And they fly out and find the swarm bugs and get eaten. And he said he took the whole moth lamp family with him. And I was like, wait, I really need to go back and read that nursery rhyme. In 2.0, we found a nursery rhyme. It's where Firefly takes you to her manhole. Up in that cafe area, there's a little nursery rhyme there. And it seems to be about the original families of Penacony. And there's 7 of them. And 2 of them really bad things happen to, and now there's 5. It's kind of a dark nursery rhyme. It's like kind of like the original fairy tales and nursery rhymes, where they're not like pretty. And it kind of implied that the other five had, they were all like, there were 7 kids trying to survive, and then something bad happened to the other 2, and it kind of maybe implied that the 5 had something to do with the other 2, but it was a little hard to decipher. And I think one of them went out. I think one of them was a moth or a butterfly and went out and got eaten. And here's Micah telling us about Tiernan, who took the moth lamp family to try to find resources for everybody, and went out and got eaten by the swarm. And I was like, wasn't that in that nursery rhyme? I really feel like that nursery rhyme is the whole backstory of the family, and it's this totally optional, just readable thing that they had in 2.0 and just left there, and probably will never be referenced, but it's there and tells the story right from the beginning before we knew anything that was going on. But so I thought that was really interesting. But this is essentially the trailblazers that we were sent to find as a personal request from Pom Pom. The third one I think is Mikhail. There is a third monument, but it's not. I mean, I can't remember. I just can't remember what Pom Pom said. The third one. But the third one would be Mikhail and the Watchmaker. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But there is a third monument. So there's the Rosalina monument, Tiernan monument. There is a third monument, but it's blank. And we're like, why is it blank? And then Gallagher answers. So they have appeared. They've shown up. Gallagher appears and said, oh, the guy who made Dreamflux Reef was still alive when we put the monuments up, and he decided to put his own monument up because he figured one day he'd end up on it too. And it's blank, and Gallagher's answering, and then we turn to see Gallagher, and then like the cutscene ends, everybody kind of reunites, and Gallagher's, all right, let me tell you what's going to go on. And then the cutscene ends, and it lets you play again, and you're supposed to talk to Gallagher, and he's standing right next to the monument. There seems to be a lot of coincidences there where I think Gallagher's the third monument. I think he's either the guy who built Dreamflux Reef, or he is the watchmaker. He's actually Mikhail or something. I don't know. But there was definitely a lot of cinematic implication that he's should be the third monument. And remember, he says he's like super old, and he was part of the resistance fighters. I don't know if we'll know ever. I'm sure by the end of this that we will get an answer onto who Gallagher actually is, and if he's actually Gallagher and just an important person, or if he's hiding, if he's somebody else in hiding. Like he's secretly the watchmaker or something. I don't think that's the answer, because he was like, the watchmaker died and he was really mad about it. And if he was actually secretly the watchmaker, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, that's where it was. That's where we ended. That's kind of the big reveals. We learned about the Trailblazers. We saw the introduction of what I imagine will be the major themes around for Robin's story about the symbolism of the caged bird, freedom versus protection, and probably the theme of the bigger story, which is, I guess it's the same thing, isn't it? The free dreamscape versus the very controlled dreamscape, but not quite freedom, protection, more control versus letting people live, but still relevant. It's still a similar thing. So I think so we had the introduction of those things, both around Robin actually, and just the introduction of this area and where you are after death. They even told us that the death meme is just it's like it's supposed to be a cute doggo pet that everybody loves, and its name is Sleepy, and they just use it for transportation, and you're like, what is going on? Like, they had a lot of fun with this. So yeah, that's what it is. That's the strange place. That's the strange dreamscape. That is the Dreamflux Reef. This is, like I said, it seems to be the story for this section was Gallagher's getting the gang together. The gang's getting together to deal with the problem, but the gang doesn't know who the gang is. Gallagher got the gang together. He's assembled kind of this team of Robin and Sunday, Misha, and then the Trailblaze gang. And that's what we're gonna, I don't know, expose the corruption in the family with. I don't know. We gotta talk to him, but that'll be for next. That'll be for next time. That'll be for next time. I've talked too long. I was running super late again today, so now I'm even super later. But whatever. I enjoyed talking about it. Hopefully you enjoyed listening. That was our adventure. That was day 2 for 2.2. Our adventure in the Dreamflux Reef. I get the name right. Yes, Dreamflux Reef. Our adventure in the Dreamflux Reef. I hope you enjoyed listening. I hope you enjoyed watching. I didn't worry about the clips today. I hope that's okay. Let me know if you really miss them, but they just didn't seem to work yesterday. Maybe if we get a boss fight or something, I'll show some of that. But I hope you had a good time, and I hope whatever you do after is great. Let me know what you thought of Dreamflux Reef. If you had anything you wanted to share, I'll listen. And that's all I got. So have a good one, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.